Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Downward Salad, episode 4 of our podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Danny, here with
Spencer, aka spencernation.
And today we have an exciting episode for you guys, especially if you are a Star Wars fan. Now, this is a follow-up to our previous episode in which we talked about theories and different expectations for Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Now, today we are going to be doing a full review of the movie with spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, go ahead and watch it. Come back to this after you have and hear what we have to say.
Yes.
And so, starting off, we'll just start from the very beginning of the movie. Kind of the opening scene is the rebels escaping the First Order, and kind of how that pans out is there is a ship, dreadnought, that kind of comes in, is going to try and destroy the rebel fleet as they are leaving.
Yes. And that was a pretty cool scene.
Yeah.
And there is another ship. Now you can
yeah.
There's now another ship in Star Wars. You can be like, oh, I know that ship. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And there's actually 2 ships that come out of that, including the Rebel bomber.
Yes.
Now the Rebel bomber scene, that was awesome. I think in every theater, once the camera kind of panned up and you saw all the bombs inside the ship, everyone was like,
it reminded me a lot of Wonder Woman, because have you watched that movie?
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, when Steve Trevor was in that plane with the bombs,
they
were all on the walls.
Mm-hmm.
So it reminded me a lot of that.
Yeah, I can definitely see the similarities there.
Same ship, just
just different concept, just Star Wars.
That ship got all the way to space.
Yeah, but one thing that I didn't like about this whole scene, kind of part of the movie, is that they kind of portrayed Poe in I didn't like it at all how they portrayed Poe. They called him a quote unquote flyboy, and I didn't like that part. Spencer, what did you think about it?
Yeah, I didn't like how Poe was kind of considered a hothead, jumps into action, can cause death.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I didn't like it either, especially, and then this is where we get introduced to, who is it? Oh wait, no, that's actually in a later scene when the Vice Admiral comes. But so basically what happens in this is that the Dreadnought gets destroyed, which apparently is a huge accomplishment, but Leia doesn't like it because they lost X amount of ships. And this brings us to the next scene, which is kind of the end of The Force Awakens, where Rey meets Luke and hands him his lightsaber. Now, Spencer, talk about that.
Yeah, that was really great scene. We've been waiting for that scene for 2 years now. And just Rey walks up, gives him his lightsaber. Luke just looks at it, tosses it away.
Chucks it.
Gosh, Luke, you want to just slap him in the face.
That was hilarious.
It was awesome.
I don't think anyone was expecting that.
No.
I thought he was going to be like, oh, you found my lightsaber, and then he'd be like,
there was an arm with it.
Yeah, an arm.
A hand with it.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting that scene, but it was definitely interesting how they kind of tied the relationship between Rey and Luke together on the island, because it was kind of weird how it went through, how you said, how you talked about earlier, how he kind of went through his daily routine. It's kind of strange, I guess.
Yeah, his daily routine was so weird. Milking that creature. That was
a big giraffe thing.
Yeah, and then when he went fishing, that 100-foot pole just lifts it with ease. And the next scene, he stabs down in the water, and next scene, he's just carrying a ginormous fish.
Right.
It's
it's so weird. And that's where we are introduced to the sacred tree, and where Rey finds the ancient Jedi texts, the books.
Ooh, the Great Jedi.
Yeah, that was something that you noticed too, was that the Great Jedi logo was on the books.
Yeah, and that's all. That's all about the Great Jedi. That's it. They didn't mention any further. They didn't say Luke was a Great Jedi or anything. It was just straight up, oh yeah, Here's the emblem. That's all we're giving you.
I had thought like throughout the whole movie, because they were teasing at the idea of it. I mean,
teasing the
especially
idea.
with Kylo Ren at a lot of scenes in the movie where he's like, just let the past die. He's like, no more Jedi, no more Sith. I was like, dude, he's gonna talk about the Gray Jedi. It's gonna become canon. And then he's just like, nope, not gonna talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was a little upset at that.
Yeah, and yeah, that whole segment, and then with her, like, she shot one of those one of those rock buildings,
Mm-hmm.
and then the caretakers of the island
Yeah.
just hated her.
Yeah, the whole movie. That was awesome. Yeah. Especially when she had cut the rock and it destroyed their little cart. It's ridiculous.
That would just look up and like...
But it was kind of weird too on the island on Ahch-To when she had that like strange bridge connection with Kylo Ren that we later learned was because of Snoke.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that whole inclusion of that?
First, I thought it was like your theory of Han and Leia being Rey's parents, because we see how Luke and Leia, they have a Force connection. Like, they're, well, not really Force. They're twins. And so if they're telepathic, like Rey and Kylo, they could have possibly be twins. And I would have been very upset about that.
Yeah, and one thing that I saw too, like with the telepathic, ability with the Force, that's something that I saw that a lot of people had theories with going into The Last Jedi, was that Luke had already known about Han Solo's death, which we, found out in Episode 8 that he didn't know about it. But I thought it was kind of interesting because you'd have thought, because of how close the two were, that you would have thought that Luke would have sensed it. But then we learned that Luke had cut himself off from the Force. Now, how did you feel about that whole...
That was pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, if you're going into hiding, the best way is, like, cutting yourself off from the Force, because, I mean, like, really, that's how they'll find you. Yeah,
and that's why, that's why Leia couldn't sense him that whole time, was because he had cut himself off, and because he was just, it's kind of surprising to me, like, seeing how quickly he had just been familiar with it, and how quickly at the end of the movie, how he could, do that Force projection of himself, even though he had just reconnected to the Force. But obviously, being Darth Vader's son, he's already super powerful with the Force. But Rey, after that whole scene of finding the books and getting connected with Kylo Ren, she leaves the island.
Yeah.
And at this point in the movie, when I was watching it, I was super confused. I was like, well, what is she gonna do? Are Kylo Ren and Rey gonna is she gonna get Kylo Ren on the good side, or what's gonna happen?
There was a theory that they're gonna get romantically involved.
Yeah.
Or romance.
Yeah, that was really strange.
Yeah,
but,
I didn't like that.
It was really weird. But then we also see, while this is all going on, the Rebel fleet, Kylo Ren kind of comes in on his ship with two TIE fighters.
Yeah. That was just, he's flying up, and then he can sense his mother, and he's contemplating, do I shoot and kill her? And what? And you're like, oh no, don't do it, Kylo. Takes his hand off the button. We're like, oh, there is some good in him. Then his two TIE fighter backups just come flying around him and shoot like torpedoes into the bridge, and you just see Carrie Fisher face to the camera, and the background getting destroyed, and she just flying out into the space.
It's
that
crazy.
was the scariest and most sad thing for me in Star Wars ever.
I was holding my breath. I was like, I thought they weren't gonna kill her off in this way.
Yeah, that's me too. I was like, they said they wouldn't kill her.
Yeah, but it was really weird too, especially when she kind of flew through space with the Force, or whatever. I'm assuming it was the Force, flying through space back to the ship. That was really, really strange. Oh,
that's I was like, she better not be dead, better not be dead. And then they just showed her floating, and then her hands started to twitch, and they're like, And it was weird, but it was the coolest thing I've ever seen her do, ever.
Yeah.
it was the most like awesome thing, and I loved it so much. I love Carrie Fisher so much.
I definitely think it'll be interesting to see how they'll kind of get rid of her character in episode 9.
They don't.
I had thought that they were gonna do it in this episode, with her passing.
Or her just
year.
like going somewhere. And,
yeah, and not to be seen again. But
and after she like flew back on the ship, like she got
in a coma.
Yeah, she was like put in like medical and like all
Yeah.
this, and then that one lady had to take
Vice
over.
Admiral.
Vice Admiral.
I hated her.
Yeah. How did
Hated
you?
her.
Yeah, you hated her. I didn't like her.
It was terrible, dude. Because the thing that I didn't like about her, and this is something that like, now people the movie, for those who don't know, a lot of people are split on it. Like half of the audience loves the movie, like me and Spencer do, and then the other half like hates the movie because of all the quote unquote plot holes or whatever. But one thing that I do have a complaint about is like, why did she not tell Poe the plan?
Yeah.
Like
with the the plan of what she was going to do, and then Poe having to like send Finn and Rose on a secret mission.
Yeah, it was stupid because that whole situation could have been avoided if she just told them what the plan was. And then like they tried to make her seem like the good guy too by like making her friends with Leia and stuff, and I was like, no, it's too late. Like I hate her already. It was stupid.
And speaking of Rose, how do you like Rose?
See, I think I'm like the only one on this. Like after we went to one of our friends' house to discuss the movie, I was like the only one that doesn't hate Rose.
Oh, yeah, I hate her.
Yeah.
Completely worthless. Like, I'm gonna skip a little into like around the end of the movie when Finn was like going to kind of sacrifice himself. She just knocks him out. The way she saying like, I did this like to save what I love and all this, and it's like, well, one thing, Finn is Rey's man, and you just stopped him, you saved him, but then you just caused the whole Rebel Alliance to be in danger.
Yeah.
You just saved one guy, and then now you put like 50 people, including Princess Leia, General Leia, in danger.
And see, I didn't really have like a huge problem with it because we still have Finn as a character.
I do like Finn though.
And it ended up, being that like even if Finn would have done that, I think the whole Kylo Ren Luke situation would have still happened. But I don't hate her. I don't love her as a character either. I think she was just an okay add-on for the scene.
I don't want her in another movie again.
Just get her out.
Hopefully she died.
Oh my god.
We weren't sure. We were me and my friend, we were watching theater when she got, I guess, knocked out after she saved Finn. Me and him both like, yes! Because we thought she was dead, and we were so happy.
Yeah. I don't know, man, because, and it was really weird, the whole situation where, her and Finn met, where, Finn was trying to find Rey.
Yeah, he was abandoning ship, and she was, admiring him to be a hero.
Yeah, that whole thing was really, really strange. But I did like how they kind of tied her in with the her sister who was the one on the bomber.
The one who destroyed the Juggernaut.
Yeah.
Or the
Dreadnought.
Yeah. Juggernaut is Marvel.
But yeah, it was kind of cool to see how they included that. And then that kind of brings us to the whole Snoke, Kylo, Rey scene.
Yeah.
Which I think, again, half of the movie, no one was expecting this to happen. And so, we're kind of left with Kylo and Rey seeming to be friends. They're seeming to kind of grow closer to each other. And then Kylo's like, yeah, I'm giving you to Snoke. Plot twist. And then Snoke kind of tortures her, messes around with her, because obviously he's much, much more powerful in the Force. We saw early in the movie him use Force lightning.
Yeah. Just a quick second. Force lightning,
Force lightning. Yep. And so it was definitely interesting to see how, he overpowered her, and then he ended up foreseeing Kylo Ren's future, which was killing Snoke, which was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and I kind of, in a way, so in that scene with, then when he killed Snoke, and then when Rey and Kylo teamed up, that was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
That was some of the best, fighting I've seen.
Yeah, by far one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
And plus, they made the Imperial Guards just complete,
So BA.
Yeah.
They were awesome, dude. Because I've always loved the Imperial Guards growing up, playing as them in Lego Star Wars and stuff. They've always been a super cool,
and
villain.
in number 3, Revenge of the Sith, we did get to see them, and they weren't really good.
Yeah, they weren't
the
as
only
powerful.
really time we saw them do something is when Yoda pushed them in the wall and they were knocked out.
Yeah, we didn't really get to see them in as much action as what we see. But in
this
Kylo
was
Ren, Rey fight.
Best you've ever seen them.
That was awesome, and so that kind of brought up Rey and Kylo's relationship to the peak of the movie, and then we see Kylo Ren, like we had said before, hinting at the Grey Jedi, saying no more Jedi, no more Sith. Let's just join me.
Yeah, and I kind of called that because it's in the Sith code, there's the rule of 2, and every time the apprentice kills the master and takes on their own apprentice. And when he killed Snoke, and I was they're fighting right now, but I was I knew he was gonna at least say, how about I'm not gonna join the good side. How about we become powerful ourselves?
Yeah, because he had even hinted at it in The Force Awakens too, in their one-on-one lightsaber duel. He had said to her, just join me. Maybe not in the same context as what we saw in Episode 8, but obviously there's kind of that relation between the two, and Kylo really wants to make Rey his apprentice. And Snoke had said himself that the two were equals, obviously Kylo being on the dark side and Rey being on the light side. And then we see kind of the whole Captain Phasma Finn situation.
Yes.
Now, Captain Phasma is something that we had talked about, in our last episode.
How she was not used a lot and she was kind of worthless. I looked it up. It's she had 91 seconds of screen time in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
91 seconds.
And she didn't get that much longer in.
She got a tiny bit longer, but not.
Yeah. I wish I would have saw her more. And
she was more just she just showed up around the end of the movie. Was in there for maybe a good 2 minutes, and that's it.
Yeah. And then they killed, or what we think they did was they killed her off.
I don't think they did.
I really hope they didn't, because I kind of wanted her to be a Boba Fett, Jango Fett Part 2, kind of the new. Maybe that might be what they do, is instead of her being on the First Order, she's now a bounty hunter kind of person. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. And now, we kind of forgot about it, but when Luke told her, Kylo told Rey, has Luke told you about what happened to us, with the temple and everything? And when Rey asked him, he gave his own version of the story where, it was he was too powerful, and he was and
Luke
called him
tried
out.
To kill him.
Well, it was he called him out, and then Kylo then took it and then escaped.
Yeah, which was definitely interesting because
you wouldn't have thought Luke would lie.
Yeah, and then when it goes back to Luke and Luke's monologue talking about it, he specifically mentions that Kylo took a handful of Jedi with him and killed the rest. Now, something that me and Spencer and our friends have been speculating is that handful of Jedi that he took are the Knights of Ren.
Yes, and we did not get to see a single second of the Knights of Ren.
Which we're super hopeful that this will be in Episode 9.
Yeah.
The Knights of Ren, because they're definitely a cool concept and would add a ton to the movie, especially to the dark side.
Yeah.
Having not just one Jedi turn to the dark side, but multiple.
And then they killed the rest. But yeah, and then when Kylo like told Rey the truth and then had Luke explain it again and like showed how Luke was like he was afraid of his power and was going to kill him. And that was pretty intense right there.
Yeah, it was, because it gave more of a base to build the relationship between Rey and Luke, because Luke had revealed why Kylo Ren had turned to the dark side. It wasn't Luke's intentions, but he had misinterpreted Kylo's future and his feelings, and that resulted in him turning to the dark side. Because I do believe that if Luke hadn't have done that, he might have turned to the dark side anyways, but I don't think it would have been as huge of a situation as Kylo Ren destroying the Jedi Temple, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so towards the end of the movie, we are left with a battle scene between who we thought was to be the actual Luke and Kylo Ren, and we actually figure out that it's just a new way of using the Force. It was like a Force projection.
Yeah.
What were your feelings about that scene?
Before we found out it was a Force projection, I was so confused.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and then after Rey and Kylo teamed up, and then when he was like, no, join me and everything, they had kind of a battle themselves,
mm-hmm.
and they, both, had the Force, with Rey's lightsaber, and they were pulling it, and it just pulled it apart, broke it.
Yeah.
And then I'm hoping in episode 9 that she'll make her own.
Yeah.
I would love to finally see live on TV them showing them making a lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
And the most known place is Ilum, a planet where that's really known for the Force crystals.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyber crystals.
Yeah.
And but anyway, and then when Luke came and showed up, he had that lightsaber, right?
Yeah, he had the lightsaber that was destroyed, which was
I was so confused. And then and he also had his hair cut.
Yeah.
Because he's had long hair. And I even told my friend, I was like, did he had time to get a haircut? And it was legit. It was and then we found out it was a Force projection.
Yeah.
And I was like...
Yeah, when I was watching it, I knew, obviously, we knew something was up because of the blue lightsaber. We definitely shouldn't have seen that, and especially since it was just destroyed literally a scene ago. But then I noticed something else was up too, and I pointed out to my friends that as soon as Luke was walking out onto the salt ground, everyone else's feet had been leaving red imprints, because it was salt. But then I noticed that Luke's footprints didn't. Now, at the time, in the moment, I thought, well, dang, he's just really light on his feet. But, we found out it was because he was a Force projection.
Yeah, but that whole scene between... And then when he first showed up, and then Kylo was in the AT-AT, and he had them all fire.
Mm-hmm.
And it's oh, shoot.
That was so awesome.
How is he going to do this? And then when, General Hux was like, okay, stop. This is ridiculous. This is kind of overkill. We killed him.
Yeah.
Then after they stopped, Luke just walks out of that, all the smoke. It's
that was
and it
so
was just
BA.
one of the coolest things ever.
Right?
And it was before we knew he was a Force projection.
Yeah, so we just obviously thought, dang, Luke
is the most powerful Jedi.
He is the real deal. But yeah, that's when Kylo Ren kind of steps down after that whole AT-AT focused fire on Luke, and he kind of steps down and fights Luke. But Luke, being a Force projection, he didn't give himself away by trying to use his lightsaber. He basically just dodged all of Kylo Ren's attacks, which was super awesome. But then Luke had said right before he kind of gave himself away to Kylo Ren, he was like, if you kill me out of hatred, I'll be with you forever. Mm-hmm. And then he goes and he tries to kill him out of hatred, but
and at first I thought he was pulling an Obi-Wan Kenobi, kind of sacrificing himself
mm-hmm.
too, but he just goes right through him and
yeah, that was super confusing.
And then he fades away, and we see him. He's been at the Arc 2 the whole time.
Mm-hmm. And that's when he releases himself to the Force just like Obi-Wan and Yoda had in previous movies.
Yes.
Which was, is kind of sad, but hopefully we'll see him as a
I was
Force ghost.
and I was finally happy that we got to see a reuniting of Luke and Leia.
Yeah. And we saw that too, which was kind of interesting in that, that scene where he
touched her.
He kissed her on the forehead, which, being a projection you don't think would be possible, but
the Force is a very, confusing and unknown thing.
Especially in this movie. We got so many new add-ons to the Force, and, one thing that a lot of people are complaining about is that now the Force is expanded beyond the Jedi and the Sith. We saw at the end of the movie the little kid, Force grabbed a broom. And then, when Luke was training Rey, he had mentioned to her that, everyone can feel the Force. It's not something that's just specifically for the Jedi and for the Sith. What are your feelings about that kind of new way of using the Force?
Well, I mean, it's going to be different. And now I like that it'll bring the opportunity of more Jedi and more of a future into the Star Wars. They can develop more characters, they can get spin-offs, and we can keep the Star Wars franchise going. Not just because, the original cast, they're all, dying away. And so if we start all this new stuff, Star Wars will live forever.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting too, seeing how obviously we're left with Luke's, one of his last lines in the movies is that he's not the last Jedi, and we see Rey come and save the last of the Resistance.
She was.
And
there goes my statement in the last podcast how I wanted her to die.
Yeah, because we end up with a scene of her stowing away the Jedi books. She had actually taken them from Ahch-To before Yoda had came. Yeah. Oh yeah, Yoda. We completely forgot about Yoda, but before Yoda had burned down the tree.
Well, yeah, that whole scene where Luke was going to burn down the tree, and then while he was running up there with a flare, and I was like, how does he have a flare? And then just you see the cane, and we're like, and he turns around, Master Yoda, and all this. He's like, I'm going to burn down the tree.
And it was the puppet Yoda too. It wasn't the CGI Yoda, which was super cool. I loved that.
Yeah, and it was like. And he was like, I'm going to burn down a tree. And he couldn't do it. And Yoda's shame. And just hits the cane on the floor and there's lightning.
Oh, that was so cool. And which is interesting too, because now we see that Force ghosts can actually use the Force in the real world. Even though they're a ghost, they can affect the real world, seeing how he used lightning to burn the tree.
Yeah, and that whole scene and then afterwards, Luke's all the old books and all this. And I'm now thinking maybe Yoda knew about it, and so that's why he was so easily, hey, I can destroy this. The books are safe because Rey's a thief.
Yeah, and so hopefully in the next movie we see Rey. Maybe it does a jump a couple years and we see Rey really study the books, becomes even more powerful.
I want her to get some interaction with some of the Force ghosts.
Yeah.
Maybe interaction with Obi-Wan, Yoda.
Qui-Gon Jinn, possibly.
I want to see her with Anakin. Force ghost.
Yes.
See how, and then and Rey will be like, why did you turn to the dark? And get all these questions. And I think that would be very interesting.
Yeah, that would be an interesting take to Episode 9. But there's so much stuff that I think we're all waiting for, for Episode 9, because the Resistance is very, very small now. But what we had, seen in the last scenes of The Last Jedi is that they had called out to the, Resistance. They sent their signal to the corners of the galaxy, and no one came to help. Now, what do you think the reasoning to that was, Spencer?
Oh, I don't, honestly, that was just so, kind of confusing, too.
Yeah.
And I was like, surely, did I think they all lost hope. And so I was, really confused. And so, yeah, it was just confusing. And I'm I was hoping, okay, at first they had no one, but then they're going to get a lot of, help.
Yeah.
But they never did.
Yeah, they never did. And I had thought that maybe it'd be an awesome scene where the all the people that were on the resistance side would just like show up in hyperspeed, just destroy the AT-ATs, or start a whole battle. But
yeah, never happened.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there will be more allies for the next movie, and then I love how much we
skipping over.
Yeah, and we forgot the scene with the Vice Admiral, whatever her name was.
Purple hair.
How she sacrificed herself when the rebels go to create the salt planet. And she spun into their way and like put it in hyperspace.
Yeah,
hyperspeed.
Yeah,
light speed.
I get your drift.
There we go. Okay, and that was just a cool scene because it was just like
Silence.
everyone. The whole movie was silent, and everyone in the theater was silent, except like one person. But
oh, that was so awesome.
Yeah, you just see the cracks and just.
Yeah, that was really cool. But that whole scene left me with a question, which it doesn't I don't think it's like a huge deal that they have to answer in like the next movie. But like how they had just emptied like a majority, almost all of their fuel into all the escape ships, and then she has enough fuel to go into light speed. That was kind of weird, but I guess it's not something that they have to explain because it's just a very minor detail that I had noticed. And so going back to something we just briefly mentioned, the end of the movie, we see kind of the stable boy that Rose and Finn had met on Canto Bight force pull a broom and kind of look up and see a ship go through light speed. What is your take on that kind of ending scene? Do you think that we'll see the stable boy in Episode 9 or in further Star Wars movies, or is he just kind of a symbol for the Force?
Like I was saying, I'm hoping they do more development on these new ones and him as well. These new Force users, and I'm hoping they can expand it on and they can become a main part of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
At least a character, yeah.
Yeah, especially, at that age is what it looks like. It's the same age that Anakin was found by Obi-Wan, and kind of, it'll be interesting to see if they will include that or just kind of expand on the idea of having new users to the Force.
Yeah.
And so that brings us to the end of our Episode 4 podcast about Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Yes. So thank you guys so much for listening to us. Be sure to subscribe if you already haven't. Hit the like button if you also haven't. And if you want, you can click the notification bell so you'll always know when we post a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Spencer.
And I'm Danny.
And thank you guys so much, and peace out.